Hi, I'm Skapokon, and man, 4 years making Lawl Nova. This is amazing, and I didn't expect myself continuing for so long. I've already made a lot of Retrospective anniversary specials, but not a single Lawl Nova one, so I think it's time to get deep on the history behind my LOL spin-off. A series of videos that went from mediocre, even if people found it okay, but that's for later, to one of the most popular ones, or at least that's what you say. So let's start with a small history before I made Doofenshmirtz moveset. The roots from Lawl Nova come from the time I posted text movesets in Aitor Molina's LOL sprites, both in Facebook and his blog. At first I didn't really like those sprites, because he excluded so many important characters, and yet he greenlighted pretty bad suggestions such as Word or Dimensio, who didn't make it luckily. However, I ended liking and supporting his project, suggesting characters and ideas. The movesets I posted were Ouija, Dark Helmet, Ophelia Chill, Sheldon Cooper, and Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I also wrote other movesets, but I never had the chance to show them, such as More Grabs, What Was I Thinking? Or Isma. Later on, Aitor suggested me to start my own LOL. I wasn't very sure about it, because most of the spin-offs during that age received really negative feedback. However, I thought that LOL deserved more respect. People wrote movesets in Facebook and they were incredible and creative. To name a few, Raul Silva by Aitor, who was later made as a video moveset. And I remember some pretty good ones for Dr. Rabbit and Stu Pickles. However, people who actually made the movesets in videos, apart from the original, YTP Guy and IRL were the only good ones. So I decided to make movesets for that very same reason. I made my own roster and went aboard. In one of my earliest rosters, I was going to have a total of 3 rosters, one decided by me, one decided by Aitor, and one decided by the audience thanks to the empty slot. However, this changed when Aitor planned to make movesets as well. The only character from Aitor's roster that stayed were Red and Leo, because I liked the idea of having an alternative snake. He added me as his snake, so it was fair to use one of his original characters as mine. But I digress. While in my roster the first character was Chowder, I decided to start with the character that had the first moveset I published in Facebook, Dr. Doofenshmirtz. During that time, I wasn't sure which program I was going to use, so I decided to use Scratch. Damn, was it tedious. I didn't enjoy the program because it wasn't suited for animations. It was made for video games. Instead, I chose Pivot Stick Figure Animator, a program to make stickman animations which also allowed sprites. I wouldn't be so stupid to make a LOL with stick figures, right? Take that off my face. To make the moveset, I had Pivot to make them, Hypercam to record them, and VideoPad for the editing. The hardest part of making this moveset was finding the inspiration clips to crop the images. I only had YouTube to work with, because that was the only page I knew about. As you may remember, the UpBeast inspiration clip was in Spanish, and the final smash didn't even have one at all. But that's just the beginning. I have no idea why, but VideoPad started working horribly. It rendered the video, but it was empty, or cut after the roster was shown. So I had to record the video with Hypercam in the preview mode. However, it wasn't that good. I had to record the sound separated because Hypercam didn't allow it. The problem is that the recorded video had horrendous colors, and for some reason VideoPad froze the videos that weren't recorded with Hypercam. The moveset became an ugly, ear-raping mess that I wanted to cancel, but I uploaded it anyways. I expected everyone to hate it. However, it turned out to be much better than I expected. People seemed to say that even if the quality of the video was bad, they said that the quality of the moveset was good. And that was good enough for me to continue making movesets. I think that with 4 years making this LOL, it's about time I divide the whole thing in eras, much like Chinchorina's does. The Skapokon's LOL era is the first one. I call it that way because at first Lawl Nova didn't have a name, and it was just called LOL, so people referred to it as Skapokon's LOL. Well, they would have done that if it wasn't because nobody could spell my name right, which was one of the reasons I decided to give it a proper name by the time I made Isma's moveset. However, this era doesn't finish with Isma, but rather with Captain N. But why? I still call this Skapokon's LOL era because at the time I was still developing Lawl Nova's own quirks and tropes. All characters from this era were picked because they were suggestions in other LOLs, mostly by me. Even the empty slot was full of characters from YTP guys, the empty slot. And at the time, I was just another LOL, and I really didn't have much standards. Dr. Doofenshmirtz moveset is the obvious example of this, but Isma and Sheldon didn't really do much better. And then there's CDI Zelda, with the unreadable text and awful sound quality. Most of these issues were part of VideoPad and Bandicam, but did I do something to fix them? No, I just left them as they were. With Captain N, some of the problems present in the previous moveset were fixed. For example, I used to add the text with pivot, but now I do it with VideoPad, because they are then seen much better. But the sound quality and script movesets were still there. Looking back, most of my issues with these movesets were mostly technical, and the actual movesets still hold up today, which was sort of the opposite with the next era. Something huge happened when I made Captain N's moveset. Chinchorina's himself liked it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The original Lowler himself liking what I did? This was so awesome, and a great step forward in the right direction. I had to make that all my movesets would be as good as Captain N. And that sort of backfired. Knowing that Chinchorina's liked my movesets, I had to top my standards. That not only meant having to correct technical issues from my previous movesets and how I now work with scripts, but that also meant that the movesets had to be more creative, unique, complex, and weird. Each one of the characters had moves that led to different attacks, moves with random effects, some kind of gimmick, or moves with effects that were never seen before. From this era I have to praise myself for the creativity. Not a single move was straightforward, and the more possible things you can do with these attacks, the merrier. Deeper Pines is a positive example of this era, as his entire moveset had attacks with effects rarely seen in movesets, making him a breath of fresh air. The problem is that I was so obsessed with trying to make the movesets as unique as possible that I forgot an important part: being actually good fighters. And that's the main problem with the movesets from this era, which funnily starts and ends with a joke moveset, that the characters are too complex and unique. I later learned that random effects are actually not very liked by the Smash community, and I wanted to add as many as possible here. Tungabrus is sadly the worst offender. Don't get me wrong, I still like his moveset for its quirkiness and how I introduced my audience to the I Wonder What Happens videos, but his specials are really not that useful in battle, which is why I'm going to give him good stats and normals to counter this. But no, Lawl Nova during the approval era was far from being a bad LoL, or worse than the Skapokon's LoL era, but the movesets that were made during it were very overwhelming. And I didn't even notice that it was bad because for me at that time, having a lot of options always equals a great moveset. That was about to change in our current era. About the time I started with stages and other extras, I became interested in competitive Smash Bros. The inclusion of For Glory in Smash 4 as well as Alpha Rat's How to Play Smash 101 made me interested in something that I had ignored for years for being too difficult and not fun. Although I'm far from being Zero or Mewtwo King, I discovered the rules of competitive play, as well as the reasons of why a character is considered top or low tier. I applied the stage rules in my stages video by making some stages less chaotic, such as removing the walk-ups from John's house and redesigning Elsa's ice castle. But it wasn't until the classic mode video when I applied this to the movesets themselves. Classic mode is the LoL related video that took me the most time to make, and the main reason is that I had to make the battles believable. To do that, I pretty much made the video with my 3DS always on hand, using Smash for 3DS as a referential guide for damage and knockback. When making classic mode, I realized that some characters had so far competitive value with some attacks, which is why my focus was shifting the moveset that I made after it. I didn't only want to make creative movesets that were faithful to the source material, but I also wanted to make the characters good, so that anyone watching my videos would be like, I would main that character. This goes without saying, but joke movesets are obviously the exception. ASDF guy already showed a bit of this, with his down B being changed from a random roulette to a cyclical attack, but the character that shows the competitive era the most is Perry the Platypus. Perry is a tier 4 character at its finest, the combo heavy agile character that wins tournaments and makes casuals cry for nerfs. Best Waluigi is also an example of this shift, with a more traditional moveset despite being a very weird character. Alpharad wasn't the only Smash YouTuber that helped me improve my LoL though. Relax Alex is also someone that I should thank. With his Know Your Moves video, I discovered that many characters in Smash Bros. Not only brought moves from their games, but also had an overall gameplay style based on their games. This was something that was perfect for LoL, and I have been using it since then. ASDF's moveset is random because his swords are random. Donkey Kong's moveset is directly influenced by the Crystal Coconut because that was the formula of the show. A good Star Butterfly player must know how to think twice before acting and correct their mistakes because that's the lesson that Star herself is trying to learn. And the list goes on. Do I still like to put some complex gimmicks and multi-use attacks? Yes, but I also try to implement them in a way that the complexity pays off, or that all the effects are useful and accessible. If these characters were made during the approval era, they would have been much worse in this regard. Star's Magic Wand would have been random, ASDF's Guy Pointless Button would have been random, while Ouijafar would have been random, and I still remember how I wanted to implement Jade's Shield Dex, and it was so cryptic that I don't even want to describe it. This system was still a thing during John's moveset, as you can see that Jake has 3 cards stored, but no cards in hand. I leave you to make your own theories about how it was originally going to be implemented. So we are currently in the competitive era, in which my target is to make movesets that can be enjoyed by anyone. Competitive players and casual players, those who like the source materials and those who have no idea what they are about, veteran LoLers and those who are introduced to the matter because of this. I don't think anything that causes a new era will happen anytime soon, but only time can tell. Until then, I hope you liked this video and thank you everyone for being such great subscribers and fans. I'm Skapokon and we go back to the real world.